Nick Jr. is an American programming block seen on weekday mornings on Nickelodeon. As its name suggests, is aimed at children from age 2 to 5 who have not started full day of school yet. It is owned by Viacom CBS Domestic Media Networks as a division of Viacom CBS. It was launched on January 4th, 1988. And was relaunched on May 5th, 2014, 6 years ago. The owners made by Viacom CBS and headquarters in New York City. Formerly known as Nick Jr. from 1998 to 2009, Nickelodeon's Playdate from 2009 to 2012, and the Nick Jr. on Nick from 2018 to 2020, which is the present. The block would play on at 8 o'clock from 8 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. Throughout the 90s, on April 5th, 1993, Nick Jr. premiered a new series known as The Kelp Elliott Company and received a facelift, which received the slogan, Grow, Learn, and Play, as well as the orange guy and blue guy holding hands. It ran from 1993 until 1994. The reasons for this because of lack of ratings, because of Nick Jr. lost to TLC and PBS's PTV in ratings. So on September 5th, 1994, Nick Jr. received another rebrand facelift. This introduced Face, an animated host that introduced shows and interstitials and led into commercial breaks. In the context of the segments, Face was capable of materializing objects such as an astronaut, a robot, a clown, a window, a traffic light, stars, and even wood. He was also capable of creating a number of foley sound effects and voices, including a signature 3-note trumpet noise, usually following the name Nick Jr. at the end of every bumper. He also changed colors, moods, and feelings. Face was voiced by Chris Phillips, who also narrated several Nickelodeon and Nick Jr. promos. The original Face promos were produced by Nick Digital from 1994 to 1996 and 2000 to 2003, and DMA Animation from 1996 to 2000. In October, Nick Jr. introduced 2 new original series, known as Gal Gal Island and Allegra's Window, resulting in 50% rating gains for the block of Nick Jr. On September 8, 1996, the first episode of Blue's Clues premiered in prime time on Nickelodeon. Then it debuted on Nick Jr. So on September 9, 1996, one day after the premiere of Blue's Clues, Nick Jr. received yet another facelift produced by Hilton Sullivan, this time introducing more logos. In 1998, the slogan Just For Me was also introduced, which was in tandem with this new slogan called Play to Learn for the rest of their run. In the years that followed, in 1999 to 2000, shows like Franklin, Maisy, Kipper, and Little Bill first aired. On September 1st, 2003, Nick Jr. received another rebrand, this time introducing a dozen new logos, and premiered this show from Hit Entertainment called The Rubber Dubbers, which aired on Sprout. The Rubber Dubbers premiered the next day. A new interstitial series was called The Nick Jr. Play Along. It debuted in 2003, where 2 live-action fun action hosts named Robin, played as Hillary Hawkins, and Zach, played as Travis Gelba. Alongside Robin and Zach, 2 sock puppets called the Feet Beats were also introduced. And that wasn't all. In 2000, CBS began airing a block called Nick Jr. on CBS to coincide with Nick on CBS. This programming block featured shows from Nick Jr. and aired every Saturday morning. helping to beat Kids WB in ratings. In 2002, the block was renamed to Nick on CBS. Also in 2003, Face was updated on September 1st of 2003, will look, sounded, and radically different from the Face from 1994. On October 8th, 2004, the Nick Jr. Play-Along and the new Face interstitials ended their one-year run. On October 11th, 2004, Nick Jr. received yet another rebrand, consisting of interstitials co-produced with Little Airplane Productions, featuring the block's new host. Face was replaced by a Piper Opossum, who probably gave many children nightmares. And this new slogan, Love to Play. Nick Jr.'s female announcer was replaced with Kobe Powell and Chris Phillips. Nick Jr. used its new on-screen bug to promote its website, but was changed on March 6, 2006, after the FCC's forbid, and used Nick Jr.'s 2003 and 2004 regular screen bug and Nick's regular Splat logo again. The last time they were used on the two screen bugs from Nickelodeon, Nick.com, and the Nick Jr., NickJr.com was January 2006. Lazy Town, Miss Spider's Your Patch Friends, and The Backyardigans, the latter of which premiered alongside the rebrand, premiered on Nick Jr. in 2004. They were briefly being aired on Noggin during Thanksgiving week before joining Noggin's regular schedule later. Also in 2004, Nick Jr. on CBS was revived, only to be discontinued again in 2006. Around the same year that the WB and UPN were replaced by the CW in 2006. On September 7th, 2007, the Piper Opossum interstitials ended its 3-year run. On September 10th, 2007, Nick Jr. received again another facelift. The block's bumpers were often given similar to Noggin's Puzzle Time interstitials, encouraged preschoolers to play with us, so the Play With Us slogan was launched, which featured stop-motion bumpers. Along with the bumpers, this also marks the interstitials being stopped airing, which increased more commercials. Starting on March 3rd, 2008, Nick Jr. began broadcasting at 8:30 a.m. The Nick Jr. block was renamed to the Nick Jr. Playdate, that has this Play With Us in a chorus. On January 30th, 2009, 3 days before its rebrand, the Nick Jr. block ended its run with the killing and ending with Meow Kailan to be the last show. On February 2nd, 2009, the original Nick Jr. block on Nickelodeon was discontinued and was rebranded as Nickelodeon's Playdate. The block's branding was based on the Noggin's branding that has the arts and craftsy styling, which were from 2002 and 2003 to 2012. On March 12, 2009, it was announced that Noggin will be replaced with Nick Jr., and the end will become Teen Nick. In 2012, Nick Playdate was rebranded as simply Nick, the smart place to play with the modern era, which debuted in 2012. Also in 2012, Misuse was retired, replaced by the modern era with no host mascots. On May 5th, 2014, Nickelodeon's preschool block was rebranded back to the Nick Jr. name, while still using the Nick name for the screen bug and the promos starting in 2015. When aired on the Nick Jr. channel, commercials for program broadcasts on Nickelodeon's Nick Jr. block would usually end with "Over on Nickelodeon" to differentiate the titles. On the same day, the Nick Jr. block also began to use Nickelodeon's on-screen credits to include more commercials offsets. Kinda not Right. On June 10, 2015, the Nick Jr. website was completely designed to match up with the Nick Jr. app. On May 21st, 2018, the Nick Jr. blog on Nickelodeon was rebranded and renamed as Nick Jr. on Nick, but freshened its image with new bumpers and circling boards to introduce the modern era 2.0 bumpers. Whether you loved them or hated them, Moose and Z would still be the number one top of being Noggin's mascots, along with Nick Jr.'s mascots. On November 12, 2018, the Nick Jr. blog reverted back to using the Nickelodeon name for the screen bug, and later in advertisements. However, the Nick Jr. name is retained in the refreshed bumpers and circling boards because it would be making less sense. The slogan, "Ready to Play," was also introduced based off of this promo of the Nick Jr. characters always being ready to play. Nothing can replace other Nick Jr. shows, but unfortunately, the Max and Ruby series, which was premiered in 2002, was officially retired and was off the air, but placed by a new character named Baby Shark Brooklyn. If you don't know who Baby Shark is, he's a brand of pink fawn from a company called SmartStudy. Preschoolers love that shark, including the Baby Shark fans with a burning passion, and also had noticed. If you don't know why Baby Shark was on Nick Jr., here, I want you to take a look at a video. Link is in the video description about this. So, Nickelodeon began making negotiations and partnering with SmartStudy to provide a new show for Baby Shark. The two companies have officially made this, and so a new show was developed for Baby Shark, known as Baby Shark's Big Show. Yeah, you won't like this. And also, this show will automatically be panned by viewers. Also, I won't pan the show because I didn't get to see it yet. I should have mentioned the shows, but there is no official way for me to do so because of the constant rebrands of Nick Jr. at the time. So I'm gonna put something in the description for those who may know about the Nick Jr. shows being premiered under Nickelodeon. So a link to an article page of a Wikipedia page is also going to be in the description below. Anyway, that's all the talk we have about Nick Jr. And this is why Baby Shark is on the Nick Jr. channel and the Nickelodeon Network block. And so you're probably wondering, Tajmir, why are you making this history? Well, I make this is because, well, everyone needs to look back in their childhood. Also, by the way, I forgot to mention about Santiago de Seas. He was the first one to be premiered before Baby Shark's Big Show. So, you're probably wondering, oh, Santiago de Seas is there. Is he a ripoff of Jake and the Neverland Pirates? Well, I don't know. Actually, probably, this is actually the Nickelodeon's original series. Let's be honest. As for me, I'm not hating on Nick Jr. just yet. I'm only despising half of Nick Jr. because of the modern era. So that's why I made my own demographic Nick Jr. blog, known as Tajmir Jr. Actually, it was Logo Fan 2003's idea. Credit goes to Logo Fan 2003 for the logo that's going to be shown in this video. So, let me know in the comments. What do you think Nick Jr. could have done to make a successful children's brand? Do you think it will survive much longer? Probably so. Anyway, thanks for watching. And if you are into the Nick Jr. fandom, make sure to join it and get involved. Anyways, stay tuned.